Hello and welcome back to Practical Knife Reviews. Today we're going to be looking at a vintage knife. It's one of my favorites except for one critical flaw, and you'll see in just a second what that is. So this is the Camillus 23. You can see Camillus, New York, USA on the tang stamp right there, and you can see 23 on the back of this. It's got a master spear blade, very, very nice spear, long pull. The secondary blade is a small pen blade. Nothing written on the pen blade. You can see it's got these yellow, I think they're Delrin handles, but it's just a cheap plastic in any case. Brass pins, nickel silver bolsters. Just a very classic looking knife in general. You can see there's a bit of gapping here on the back. Not sure if it was like that when it was new. You can see there's the gapping right there between the spring and the brass liner. Not sure if it was like that when it was new because this knife is from sometime between 1946 and 1956. So there's been a lot of time where that could have occurred since it was new. And since this pin is a little bit recessed, my guess is that was, you know, after some time it started to pull itself away from there. But let's look at the knife. I'll show you what the flaw is. So this knife, we'll look at how sharp it is right now. Oops. If I could get it to cut right, there it is. I was going to say this is super sharp except in one point, and I'll talk about that. That is the flaw with this specific knife. So it's very sharp. That's the Spearmaster blade, and you'll notice half stop, but I'm going to lower this down very gently, and that'll give you a hint as to what the flaw is. Let's look at the pen blade. As I mentioned on our last video, when I have a knife that's got two or more blades and one of the blades is just a small pen blade, I generally only use it if I'm going to be doing like surgery or something that would require a surgically sharp blade for. And this is, yeah, super duper sharp right now, but I'm not going to use it if I've got a master blade. I'm going to use this unless I absolutely need something blazing sharp. So let's look at how it does on cardboard real quick, and then I'll talk about the flaw before we do some apple peeling and woodwork. I should mention this is a carbon steel blade. It's a 1095. That's what Camillus used as their carbon steel blades before they went bankrupt. Now, of course, Camillus exists again. They're just produced in China these days for the most part. I believe Taylor Brands owns them now, but I probably shouldn't speak off the top of my head, but I think Taylor Brand owns the Camillus trademark now. But before they went bankrupt in the mid-2000s, all of their carbon steel blades were 1095. And yeah, I mean, it cuts through pretty easily. That was through every single layer there. It cuts through pretty easily, but the blade stock is actually moderately thick, so you know, you do have to use a little bit of force behind it, but it does cut through pretty well. Now let's look at the flaw. This blade was blazing sharp when I took it out, and you can see it's still pretty sharp, except there's one spot where it hangs up, and you're probably not going to see it on the camera unless you zoom way in, but right at the tip of my fingernail, zoomed in there, Ma, right at the top of my fingernail, you'll see there's a bit of glinting right on the edge. Where does that glinting correspond to? If you close it, it's right where the pin, right where this pin is, and you can see on the inside, there's a bit of, you know, rust and gunk and stuff like that. You're not going to see it on the camera, but right where that swells up because the back spring, when it gets to the pin, swells over a little bit. Right on the top of that swell, there's a little line where we have blade wrap. Blade wrap is where the blade comes in contact with the spring because the kick isn't high enough. So the kick is supposed to stop the blade from hitting the spring before it hits the spring. I can fix that by adding a little bit of material to the top of the kick to raise the blade up a little bit, because there is still a little bit of space to go before the tip of the blade is exposed. But the way that it is right now, and I don't know, again, if it was like that originally or if it's just worn down over time, I would guess it's just worn down because this is a really well-made knife, and I can't imagine that, you know, with all of the use, it hasn't worn down a little bit. But if this kick was a little bit taller, we wouldn't have had that contact, but you can hear my fingernail can actually catch underneath that because it rolls the edge when it slams down, and I forgot about it and slammed the blade down right onto that spring. So I could fix this. I might fix it. If I was planning on carrying this a lot, I would fix it, but this being like one of my favorite vintage knives, I'm almost afraid to carry it, especially because this was from my grandfather. So, you know, don't want to lose it or anything like that. So mostly it just sits in display. Once in a while I'll carry it. But if I was going to carry it a lot, I'd fix it. But as it is, I'm not sure. Let's see how it does on wood. This is pine. Let's find a good spot. I guess right here. We'll feather stick here. Now this, of course, is not anything near what the factory edge would have been because, well, it's been used since 46 to 56 to now. I mean, it was made sometime between 46 and 56. This is not a good piece of pine to test on. Let's try it on this one. This one also has a little curve to it, but not quite as severe as the other one. Yeah, so you can see we can get really good curls with it if I get the angle right. Question is, am I going to get the angle right? Probably not. Not much effort. Not the best feathers, but they're okay, especially for just a slip joint. Now let's look at red oak. This is the hardest wood that we've got in our forest here, and got to get the angle right, because I'm just kind of grazing the surface at the moment. And one nice thing, the kick, even though the kick is not quite long enough to prevent the blade wrap, it does provide a nice little finger choil. Those are actually halfway decent feathers. Not the best, halfway decent. I'm a big Scandi grind guy. This is a saber grind, which is similar to a Scandi with a mild secondary bevel at this point. Saber grinds, I don't know, they're okay. They're not really my thing, which you'd think that they would be, considering, well, they're very similar to Scandis, and Scandis are my favorite. But, I don't know, not really my thing, but those are decent feathers on a hard wood. So, certainly can't complain about that. Ma, what do you think about this knife? The Camillus 23, other than the blade wrap, which of course is a pretty big flaw on this.
It seems kind of big and clunky to me.
Yeah, this is a working man's knife.
Yeah, it's definitely not an aesthetically pleasing knife. I don't like the color of it. It looks big and clunky. It's not something I would carry in my pocket.
I think that originally, so in addition to being a working man's knife, these I think also were coat pocket knives. So like, you know, you'd be wearing your work coat and it would slip into the pocket on the outside. They weren't really super common in the pocket. Of course you could. I've carried knives this big in my pocket before, but yeah, this is definitely like a work knife. This isn't just I'm gonna pick a knife and carry it around the house kind of knife.
Yeah.
But yeah, aesthetically, you said not the...
Yeah, it's not, there's nothing special to me on it.
Yeah, I like it because it's a really good work knife, but other than that, that blade wrap really does bother me. But yeah, it's got your half stops on it though.
I do like the half stops.
Yep. And it's 1095 carbon steel, which is definitely something for me.
I don't remember, is the pull harder than the last one we looked
Yes,
at?
it is. You can try it here.
Oh, no. You know I can't open anything.
Here, we'll give it a try.
Oh, I can open it.
Yeah, the Spearmaster is not that bad. Now, just when you close it really gentle on the second one, because otherwise it's going to slam into the spring, which is, again, what I don't like about it. And I can fix it. It's just my fix might try to open the...
Oh, you know, I can't open anything. Oh, I can open it. Wow. Okay, I got it.
There you go. So that's our look at the Camillus 23 on the outside. We'll look at some more stuff, you know, measurements, and we'll take a closer look at the fit and finish once we get inside and get out of the snow. So we'll be right back. Okay. Let me take these. We're back on Practical Knife Reviews. We forgot outside to peel the apple. I had it sitting out there and just didn't realize. So again, we're looking at the Camillus 23 vintage, 1946 to 1956. The one with the blade wrap, which I have not sharpened out of there since then, but let's peel this apple. And then I can have the apple with dinner, which is a nice bean and bone soup.
But the fox actually gets the bone.
Yeah. This bone is not for me. Tastes good though. It's a ham bone. Not that anybody that's watching is going to care, but and again, who's even watching? Maybe they do care. Maybe they like ham bones. Maybe they like foxes.
Oh, we like foxes. Oh
yeah, I saw them yesterday. Since it's winter time, in case you couldn't tell from the snow outside. Well, it's not really winter time. It's still October, but winter here starts in like early October and goes until like mid-May. But yesterday on my walk out in the forest, I saw the fox, and since it's winter-ish time, he was super, super fluffy and was just springing over the snow out in the forest, which was really nice. He's very cute. But anyway, you can see this is peeling quite well. And I'm going to make the mention I make every time. I'm not the best apple peeler in the world. But, I mean, you can see it's pretty good peeling. What do you think, Ma?
Yeah, that blade seems to be, even though I think the knife is kind of ugly, the blade is conducive to peeling apples.
Yeah, that it is. That it is. So next we'll look at some specs and a closer up look at the knife as a whole. So we're back on Practical Knife Reviews looking at the Camillus 23 vintage from between 1946 and 1956. This is a jackknife, which just means that both blades come out of the same pin. Here, we got a Spearmaster blade and a pen blade as a secondary blade. It's a nice, robust knife, cigar-shaped handle. Very traditional, like working jackknife, workman's jackknife. The pull on the main blade is like maybe a 5.5, something like that. And the pen blade's about a 5. Walk and talk are incredible on the spear blade. I have to lower this one down because if you don't remember, that blade wrap is there, and I haven't fixed it yet. The walk and talk's a little bit more lazy on the pen blade, but it's really not that bad considering this knife is like 60 to 70 years old. But it's just a darn shame about that blade wrap, because if it wasn't for that, this would be darn near perfect in my book. Let's see if you can see it.
You got it in the shadows.
I know, I'm just trying to get it so I can see it first. Yeah, it's right here. Let's see if you can see that shine right by my fingernail as I turn it. You see that right there? Anyway, yeah, it's a solid, well-built knife. Other than that, I think, like I said, that it's probably just worn down after so much use over the years. But let's get some measurements on this. Ma, talk about this knife while I'm getting the measurements going.
Ugly knife. I don't like the color. I don't like the shape. It's big and clunky for me, but I could see carrying it in my Duluth Trading fire hose work jacket, like you said.
We are not sponsored by Duluth Trading, though. If they wanted to sponsor us, we would more than be happy to take their money, because, or just give us some product, Duluth Trading. You've got great stuff. This is about 4 and, I'd say 4 1/4 inches long, maybe 4 1/8, hard to tell. It's pretty thick. I guess I'll get a thickness measurement on it while we're here. We are looking at right about 1/2 inch thick, opened length. It's going to be right at 7 and just under 7.5. either 7 3/8 or 7.5. I'd say 7 3/8 long. The overall blade length of the Spearmaster blade, 3 1/4. Cutting length, just maybe 2 7/8, maybe 2 3/4. Depends on how you cant it. Let's say 2 3/4. Pen blade is overall about 2 3/8 inches long with a cutting length of just under 2. It was probably 2 originally, but if I hold it up here, you can see the tip is rounded over quite a lot because it's been sharpened a lot. And as I sharpen it, I'm bringing it back to a point, but this was really like almost flat when I got it. It's been used a lot. Like I said, it's like 60, 65 years old. But yeah, you can see there's a little bit of gapping there on this side. But I'm fairly sure that that's opened up after production because you can see this pin is sunken in, which would indicate to me that it's pulling out over time. Just Delrin handles. But from what I've seen, these blades are 1095 carbon steel, which is my favorite. Well, my favorite's probably 80 CRV2, but that's just the European equivalent, roughly, of like a 1084 or 1095 carbon steel. But yeah, this is just a good working knife. No frills, not pretty, but gets the job done. Nice stout blade. Let's get the, I guess you probably didn't want to see my foot in the video, but that's okay. You'll live. And if you're not alive, well, we're getting the view anyway. 4.1 ounces, which is 115 grams. A fairly substantial knife. A real working knife. Just a, you know, beater jackknife. Built well. Only flaw is the blade wrap, which I probably will fix at some point. Ma, any final thoughts before we call it?
The only thing that I could see added to this knife is your least favorite feature, a corkscrew. I don't know why I feel like that knife is conducive to actually having a corkscrew on it.
It probably because it's the cigar shape.
Okay, you're gonna drink wine and smoke cigars.
Well, no, no, that's not what I was thinking that the cigar shape would remind you of like a Swiss Army knife.
That's it. It does remind me of that, and it seems like it would be conducive to holding a corkscrew. And back from 60 or 70 years ago, that seems like it'd be a logical feature.
Yeah, but you mentioned that I hate corkscrews. They just get in the way for me. They take up space, and I've never used a corkscrew for any reason ever, and I don't plan on it. So yeah, anyway, that's a rant for a different episode of Practical Knife Reviews. Henry rants about corkscrews and the impracticality of them. At least when you're someone like me, they're impractical. But this is, I quite like this knife. This is one of my favorite vintage knives. My mom doesn't like it at all. So that just goes to show, that's why it's nice to have more than one person giving their opinion on these knives on the channel, because, you know, you have somebody like me who's very utilitarian minded for the most part. I mean, once in a while I like to have some aesthetics, but for the most part I'm a very utilitarian person, and this is right up my alley. Whereas you want it to like look good as well as have practical function.
And I want to be able to pull the blades out.
You were able to pull these ones out.
Yeah, not as easy as the other ones.
Okay. So that's our look at the Camillus 23. These haven't been made for a long, long time. So if you're going to want to get one, you're going to have to look on eBay, and they go for, well, a fair amount of money. I've been seeing some for like $50, $60. You might be able to find them for less than that, but ballpark, that's where I've seen a lot of the auctions at, is in the $50 to $60 range. So this is the one that I'm going to have. It's from my grandpa. And yeah, thanks for joining us on Practical Knife Reviews. We'll see you next time with something else to look at. Take care.